Welcome to part 2 of my trailer build, and previously you saw me get the frame together, the axles on, the dovetail on, and most of the cross braces on. And so in this installment we're going to get everything, pretty much all the welding finished up. So let's take a look. As I've mentioned before, I really like the tongue on my Hudson trailer, and so that's what I copied for this trailer. One of the things about the tongue is it's about 6 feet long, so it's got quite a bit of space in it. And on the Hudson, it was just open space. And so when I was designing this trailer, I wanted to utilize that space and try to put something cool there. And so here I'm putting in this cross member. This is what the jack is going to weld to. And so you can see I've got everything pretty much crowded up toward the front of the trailer, and you'll see here in a little bit why that cross member is so far forward. This is a piece of diamond plate decking that was left over from my last dovetail project, and so it had just the right dimensions for use on this trailer. So let me show you where I'm going to put this. This is a design from a manufacturer called Appalachian Trailers, where they add this piece of diamond plate decking here to increase the deck on the trailer itself. It also gives you this gusset right here, but gives you some extra deck space. So let me show you how I'm bending this right here. I'm using a little shop press, and I purchased some 3/16 by, I think these are about 7 feet or so, and so that's what I'm using right there. This piece of angle iron was a piece of scrap I found, and I was using it for front support for the front of my deck here. And it turns out that after I thought about this for a while, I realized that this was not going to work for what I wanted it to do. So I'll be ripping this back out of here in a second. I think this front deck is where I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and weld it in place. When I was doing this front piece here, I wanted a little bit of a gap under here so that that plate didn't collect water. But looking at this gap right here, it looks absolutely terrible. And this is a piece of angle iron right here, so it's not super strong. And I've been thinking about this trailer build for a little while here, and I think I want to put a winch mount right here, just in case. Now, there's a winch already mounted to my other trailer, and I've only used it once in like the last 6 years, but it was handy for recovering a truck that was broken down. So I think what I'm going to do here is pull this angle iron out and cut a piece of C-channel in there for a little bit more strength and bring it up to the height here, and then just drill some holes down in here to allow the water to escape. So I hate going backwards like this, but I think that I want this to be stronger, and I want to be able to put a winch right there if I need to. So let me get this piece of angle iron cut out of here. This is the piece of 7-inch channel that I'm going to use for my front bit brace here. And these cuts are a huge pain because not only are they a mitered cut, but they're a mitered cope. And so if you notice there, my two pieces of channel are facing each other. And so you'll see why in a second here. I placed these two pieces of C-channel here for these cross members with the inside facing each other because I wanted to create a basket here. And I did this on my equipment trailer, and it's just really handy to throw your straps and binders and stuff right there. So in this case, all four of those C-channels are facing each other, and that's going to create a really strong base for this piece of expanded metal. This was a scrap piece, and it barely fit in here. And so I'm just tracing it out right now, and I'm going to cut this and set it in here and weld it in place for a basket. For the coupler design, this is a pretty standard where you weld on this adjustable channel piece and then weld on a couple of gussets. And Max D Trailers has a pretty nice cutout for theirs where you can store your chains as well, but it's basically the same design you see in a lot of different trailers. Lamar, Lone Wolf, or a couple other manufacturers that do this, and I just copied that for a lot of welding surface and hopefully a really strong coupler. Alright, so I've got tons of welding surfaces, so I think I did pretty good here. I think that'll hold just fine. So I also like the look of it. I think it's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited. This whole thing though is like, this whole thing is hot. Of course, the closer you get over here, the hotter it gets, but boy, that thing is smoking. My new welder here, the gas bottle is empty, So I'm doing some non-structural stuff here with my old welder. And so I'm going to work on this light housing right here. I've got to drill a hole for the wires to come through and then mount the light housing. And I'm basically going to copy the same way I did it on my other trailer because I really like the way it turned out. So let me get that rolling here. What I've got is a 3/4 inch carbide tipped bit here, and this is what I purchased to put the lights in. So this should be a good usage for this, to cut those holes for the wires. So this bit self-ejects the plug when it pops out. It's got this little spring on here. So that's a pretty cool way to drill a 3/4 inch hole with this little carbide bit. Alright, there is my tail light. So that hole right there, I'm not sure that filling that in with weld like that and then grinding it all way down is the way to fill a hole in like that. So if you have a better way of filling in a hole like this one here, there was a hole right there on that thing. So I needed to fill that in. How do I do that? What's a better way to do that than filling in the weld like that? So there's the hole right there. And I guess it comes like that because maybe you want to wire through that way. But I'm going to wire through here. So I really like these. I get these on eBay and they're just a really nice product. I got one for my other trailer and so I made sure to get one for this one. For the fold down ramps, I'm doing the same thing I did when I added fold down ramps to my car trailer, if you remember that video. I purchased these, they're called ramp gate holders, and they just weld on there and then you can find a piece of round tubing that'll go in there and act as your hinge point. And so I'll put a link in the description for these guys. But for my application, I needed one on the end, on each end, and one in the middle, so I ordered 2 pairs. And the seller that I'm going to link to, they only sent 1 pair. So if you're going to order these things, I would make 2 different orders instead of 1 with a quantity of 2. So I'll put that link in there for you. They sell these little gussets, little shapes here. So that's going to be my end piece right there. So I'm just going to tack that in place. I guess I'm going to have to pull the trailer out to finish those fold down ramps. This will have to wait until I get the trailer pulled out because my fenders just arrived. Now, I was originally going to fabricate some fenders, but I decided with the way these look, and these are 14 gauge steel, so I just went ahead and ordered these. That's one less thing I have to worry about with this build, and I think it'll turn out a little bit nicer. As far as positioning the fenders goes, this axle will hit the frame at just under 3 inches. So if I place the fenders 3.5 inches above the tires, I should never have any problems with the tires hitting the fenders when the trailer's loaded down. So I think I'm going to use a scrap piece of 2x4 as a spacer. I've got these fenders clamped on here, but I need to get a piece of metal to make my side plate or back plate, whatever you call it, right there. So I'm not going to weld these on yet, but since the fender is in place, I know that the gussets that I ordered are 8 by 8 and then 11. And so that tells me where I can start fabricating this rub rail. And so with the rub rail, I think I'm going to get a little bit fancy with it. Instead of doing a single piece here, like I have clamped on here, I think I'm going to do a single stake pocket and then go back to the trailer, space out, single stake pocket, and then back to the trailer. So that's going to be a lot more bending, but I think it's going to look pretty cool. So let me play around with that a little bit and see how I do. One, two, three, 4, 5. Alright, I've been playing around with this design a little bit here, and I think I've got what I like. So I've just got one stake pocket here. This is 20 inches across here, and it's just a short little piece, and then I'll have a gap right here, and then I'll start another rub rail that goes across. So I think it's just going to look kind of cool. There's a trailer manufacturer that is doing this, and I can't remember the name of it, but I've got it written down. So I will talk about that at a future point in the video. All right, take a look. So, pretty cool. I think this will look pretty cool with another one starting like here somewhere and going across. Almost all trailer manufacturers that I looked at that are making rub rails for tie downs are using a single piece rub rail, but a company called North Star Company that makes iron bowl trailers is doing these 2-piece ones, and so that's where I got the idea from, and I think it looks pretty cool. So these fenders did not come with this backing plate here, and so I need to make that right now. And I think I have just enough of this diamond plate left to make that back piece for the fender. There will be a seam in it, but with the price I paid for this diamond plate, I think I'd rather use it up. So that's what I'm working on now. So I need a piece that is about 10.5 by about 74 or so, 73 inches. And so the first thing I want to do with my leftover piece of diamond plate is cut it down into 10.5 inch strips. to cut these 10.5-inch strips out of this diamond plate steel, I'm going to be using my plasma cutter. So that'll make quick work out of it. This is a fairly inexpensive plasma cutter, and it does okay. I'm not terribly super happy with it, but I do have it, so I'm going to give that a try. I got this piece now welded together. There's a seam right there. So now I've got the length I need. So what I need to do now is place it up against the fender and trace out the pattern, but right now these clamps are in the way. So I need to grab my bigger clamp and clamp it from the bottom so those can be out of the way. Okay, now all I need to do is trace that outline with my plasma cutter, and I want to stay probably about a 1/2 inch inside the line, make it a little bit smaller. Alright, I've double and triple measured everything, and I just can't measure anymore, so I'm going to tack this thing in. The next thing I'm going to deal with is this gap right here. And so if I pry against the tire on the inside of the fender, I can get that gap to disappear. So I'm going to try and pry it, hold it, and tack it. Alright, I got my fenders welded on. This was a little bit of a bear, and I did kind of a messy job. The one interesting thing, this welder here, the DC welder, it doesn't really blow through this very easily. I did blow through right there though. But that little welder, that thing blows through instantly. And so that's an AC welder. I'm not, I don't really like that thing. I think I mentioned it already, but this was a huge part of this trailer build, was getting a good welder. And I wanted a 251 or a 252, and I ended up with a 250. So that welder's been fantastic for this build. But anyway, so let's see how we did. Not too bad. I've got this little gusset in here, and I welded a plate across there too. So this welding upside down I'm not very good at. But I also have some corner gussets coming right here. So that'll strengthen the corners as well, even further. So now I just need to build one more. Okay, I got both fenders on. So that took a few hours for each of those, well, total I guess, fabricating that back piece and getting them positioned correctly. And so now I'm just trying to get everything that needs to be welded done before I pull it on out of here. Now I may pull it out early because I need to do some rub rails on the back, but what I'm working on now is strategic D-ring placement. So I think I definitely want one right up here. And then my buddy Mike requested that one be placed right here in the center because it seems like we're always trying to tie something down in the center here and there's nothing here. And then I'll get a couple on the back as well. So let me get those done real quickly. Okay, I got those D-rings welded on in a couple of nice little places. I think what I want to work on next is getting this jack welded on. And to do that, I think I need to pull it out of here and get it on some fairly level ground and see just where I want to position the jack. So I guess I'm going to hook up to it for the first time. One of the main reasons I got this coupler here is for that automatic locking pin. And so this is just a keeper pin here, but that thing is locked on there. Okay. So far so good. Alright, that's the first view of the trailer out of the garage. And I think that might be where I want it too. In that second to bottom hole there. Looks like it's riding just a little bit high, and once you get it loaded down, it should be good. All right. I think we have a working jack. I wanted to show you this automatic locking coupler again. Watch this. So that's a whole lot safer than having to remember to lock that pin back in, especially when you have multiple people using your trailer. While the trailer is pulled out of the garage, I want to get these ramps finished up. That centerpiece right there lined up pretty nicely, so I'll go ahead and get that burned all the way in. And then I also want to get a keeper pin drilled in here. I ordered some fancy Fender gussets, but I think they're lost in the mail. So let me see if I can make some. Okay, that's not a perfect right angle there. And the reason, well, first of all, it's because that's what the scrap I had was. And the second reason it's not a perfect right angle is this is going to fit perfectly right here. So I think I want to do something like that. Yeah, let's just make our own. Here's the other gusset that I cut from that one piece. And because these are asymmetrical, and because there's a top and a bottom, that means that they're directional. So check it out. That does not fit right there. But it does fit over here. So I want to make this 2 more of these, but with the diamond plate on the opposite side. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to flip this upside down, and that will give me my diamond plate on the correct side. Continuing with my theme of getting the most out of this plate of diamond, I am going to see if I can use this piece of scrap here. Something like that, maybe. Alright, take a look at that. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, and boy is it strong. I'm back out here working on this trailer. I wanted to show you really quickly. I'm getting pretty close. So I got this rub rail on yesterday, and about the time I made this last bend, my bending machine over here, my shop press, bent itself. And so it had this, I guess it's right there, it had this, that little post that came down, and that just bent out of the way. And so I just needed to make 2 more bends to get the other rub rail done. And so I ended up welding this other block on here that came with it. And so that's just a disaster right there, because this is cast iron. Anyway, I made the other bend. It was super sketchy. I had my face mask on, and so that thing is done. I'm not using that anymore. But let me show you the other rub rail. So there's my other rub rail for my tie down points. So today I've got to get the jacks for the bottom of the ramps, and maybe a couple more things. And I think I should be pretty close to paint here. So I'm getting pretty excited. I also need to flip the trailer over and weld this diamond plate to the cross members. So that should be pretty interesting. But these guys all came out really super strong. So I'm pretty excited about that. The fenders. I had to build these gussets. I ordered some gussets. They never came. So I think I'm pretty happy with building those out of that spare diamond plate. So it's starting to look like a trailer. As far as building the jacks for these ramps, the first thing I've got here is I've got the trailer is level. using the jack on the trailer, I leveled everything out. So I just jacked it up there until it was level on both sides. So that's good and level. So now what I can do is I want to measure to see how far down my jack comes, and I want to leave it a few inches off the ground so that when you start loading something it will squat down and set on the jacks, and then when you pull forward it will pop off the jacks. I've got my 3 pieces to make my jack. So obviously this is on the top side, this will go on the bottom side. But what I need to do now is I need to make a cope cut right here so that these will go together like they're supposed to. Okay, so I need to cut those 2 out, and I'll use the portaband to do that. I'm going to tack all my pieces together here, actually just weld them together, and I'm using my little welder here. The problem with this little welder is it basically just overheats pretty quickly, so if you are welding for more than a few minutes it'll overheat and you have to let it sit for 10 or 20 minutes to cool down. But it's a lot cheaper to run because I'm not burning gas. I've got flux core in that one. So for this kind of little stuff, that little welder works pretty good. Okay, the first ramp is finished. So you can see I've got a decent space between the ground or the floor and the jack, so that when you pull your equipment up on there, it will set down right on the jack and be supported. And then when you pull forward on the trailer, it will lift back off. So, just got one more to do here. Let's get that done really quickly. Alright, there's my custom chain keeper. So now that guy's going to get welded right there. Alright, so this chain's a little bit long here, so I'm going to cut it off maybe right there. The reason I'm going to leave it long is because if you do have a big load on here, it's nice to be able to set the ramps back a little ways. So say I had a load that stuck out a little ways. You can set the ramps back like that, and they're still out of the way. Now, if I wouldn't really go down the road like this without some kind of a strap on there, but that's why you want the chains just a little bit longer. I'm pretty much running out of stuff to weld here, so I guess let's get these safety chains on here. All right, I think I've got a safety chain. Let's do that one more time. I got the second chain welded in, and I think I may have done a little bit nicer looking job on the second time there. So, those are some pretty heavy duty chains. Alright, I've got the trailer up, and I need to weld the underside of this plate here. So I need to weld across those cross members. So what I need to figure out right now is how to get under this thing safely. So let me see if I can get some boards or a piece of C-channel or something and get this thing properly supported before I go starting to crawl underneath it. Alright, so I just let the pressure, the weight off the chain here, and that piece of C-channel did hold it. And then I put just a little bit more pressure from the excavator. So it's being held right now by the excavator and that piece of C-channel. I added another, that's a true 2x4 there. I think it's made out of oak. But anyway, just one more prop. And I'm not really trying to like crawl all the way up under this thing either. I just want to reach in there and get some welds on it. Alright, I got some tacks on there. And this bucket's been dropping. It's been up here for maybe an hour or so. And so I'm fully supported now on my 2x4 and my 7-inch piece of channel. So let's get this thing back on the ground.